Okay, well, I'm so glad that you've taken some time to be with us this evening. Mary is with me. She's my partner in crime tonight. She's busy watching the chat on behalf of all of us here at Community America Credit Union. We're thrilled that you're with us and that you're taking this time out of your busy schedule. As you have questions or need for any clarification, drop those in the chat. Again, Mary is watching that for me. If there are things that I need to pause with, I will, but otherwise, we're going to try to wait until the end of the workshop so that we can do all that at once and make sure we've kind of gathered everybody's feedback. Credit unions as a whole, and especially here at Community America Credit Union, your financial well-being is going to be top of mind to us in everything we do. And so it's a real privilege that we get to offer this to you and that you have chosen to join us. I'm Ryan Stites. I'm a financial well-being coach here at Community America Credit Union. I get to do that, and as well, I get to do these education events on occasion. I've been doing this for about 3 years. Prior to that, I spent 15 years as clergy, counseling, supporting, coaching people to be their best. I also spent 11 years teaching kids of all ages, all abilities, and lots of different backgrounds. My wife of 23 years and I have raised two kids of our own. One is 21 and one is 18. And with all of that experience, I can tell you first and foremost, I'm still learning. So with that, let's get into parenting and money. We want to help you give your child the gift of financial confidence. A few things to get started with, just to set some things out, parenting stuff. Parenting is hard. There's no owner's manual. And there are statistics out there that say that mindset about money is typically established by the age of 7. This workshop isn't designed to be your owner's manual for teaching kids about money, in part because there's just way too many different people on this webinar. There's too many of you. You've all come from your own places with your own experience. And at Community America, we're always going to value those different experiences. We're always going to value that diversity. And with such, there's just too much for us ever to approach this with any kind of, one size fits all sort of philosophy. But we want and we need you to know that you have a partner and you're not alone. And that parenting, no matter what that looks like for you, it's okay when it's hard. And it's okay when you need some help. Teaching kids healthy money skills is tough and just one part of that difficult equation. So thanks for being along for the journey tonight and for giving us this opportunity. Here's our quick agenda. We've already talked about a little bit about who we are. We're going to dive into that just a little bit more. And then we're going to break things down by life stage. Because each and every one of these different developmental stages, each brings with it its own needs for you all to be involved in whatever form you are parenting a child. And as we set out, I want to make sure we're really clear about that. If you're a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, none of this has to be in any way a traditional form of the ways that you're helping to shape children in your life. And finally, of course, we will definitely let you know how you can connect with us more and how you can get the things that you most need and ways that we can partner with you. So why work with us here at Community America? There's a number of different reasons, but the thing I want you to know most is as a credit union, we are people helping people. We celebrate that motto in everything that we do, in all the ways that we are. And if you are not already a member with us, step into a branch, and I hope that's something that you learn very quickly. That's maybe something important to point out, actually. While many or even most of you on this webinar are already members, it's not even required. So, we're recording this. You'll get an opportunity to have this recording. And if you want to share that with other friends, with other relatives, with people that are trying to raise kids, in the best way possible, we would welcome that. We are not a member-only kind of credit union. We think everybody's financial peace of mind should be top of mind. And membership is never required for the things that I am offering in an educational way. So our commitment is that, that this is going to be a little different for all of us. Financial peace of mind is different for everyone. In my daily experiences, coaching members and others in the community and sharing these educational events, I can tell you that we all bring something different to this equation. Again, that diversity is important to us here at Community America. We're always going to take an individualized approach as much as we can. We're here to journey with you and not tell you how to do it or if you're right or wrong necessarily. We're just here to encourage you to do the best. That's not only true for me as a certified financial coach and all those times that I provide free one-on-one coaching and financial counseling, but it's true of everyone here at Community America. Walk into any branch and you're going to find bankers prepared to meet you where you are and support you on the path where you want to go. Finally, I've got a few disclaimers as we get started. We don't know your family's exact situation. This webinar is not going to try to accomplish that. But we do believe that teaching kids smart money habits is one of the most powerful things that as a parent or anyone trying to help out raising children can do. We don't have all the answers, but we do want to walk alongside you and help you with support and tools and encouragement as you're looking for the right answers for you and your situation. We don't want to lecture or overwhelm you, so tonight I'm going to stick to my script pretty tightly. But we just want to empower you with some tools and some suggestions. And with that in mind, I'm pulling on all of the experience that I talked about earlier, but in large part, the coaching experience that I have from the last 3 years, working with families, working with individuals, with parents, with children that are doing the best that they can. All right, so here we go. We're going to go ahead and dive on in. So we're going to do this again by life stage. And this is at least in broad strokes, the way we've broken this down for this webinar. Early childhood, elementary, middle school, high school, and then early adulthood is kind of that time after high school. And that can go as late as you want it to go. It kind of depends on lots of different considerations. As I mentioned earlier, I am a parent, and as such, both of mine are now in early adulthood, and there's lots here that I've learned and going to share with you that I wish I would have known back when they were smaller. They turned out okay. Isn't that the great thing about parenting? Like, no matter who you are or what you're doing, as long as you're doing your best and being that positive example, it continues to amaze me, both in my teaching experience and as a parent, just how resilient kids are. So I hope that you can benefit from some of these shared experiences. Okay, here we go with early childhood. Anything that you might think of as, from birth to, pre-K. Obviously, the later in that time, the more some of these things are going to be appropriate and the more that they're going to be relevant. As a parent myself and in all of my years of teaching, and all the pastoral care and counseling, and now as a full-time educator and financial coach, I start all that I do with this big belief in choice, and that it's really important as much as possible in everything I do, and that includes coaching people that are certainly adults, offering them as many choices as possible. So, for example, in early childhood, it's almost time for bed. Are we going to read first, or do you want me to go ahead and tuck you in and put you under the covers now? In those ways, your child's going to go to bed, but they get some choice in how that happens. You can take one stuffed animal with you for the car ride. So which one do you want it to be? Let's choose one together, or you can go do it yourself. Those sorts of choices also lead into money choices. When my kids were small and we went to eat out, we used to give our kids the choice. For example, would you rather order a drink, or are you going to drink water? And if you drink water, then maybe you could have a dessert after supper. Could we afford to do both? Well, yeah, probably in most situations, at most times we could afford to do both. but there was something about asking them to make some of those choices and teaching them early on that it's not an infinite amount of resources, that in fact, those resources, money and otherwise, are limited. If you're uncertain about sharing money choices at such a young age, one of the things I love to use instead, especially around choice or as you're trying to encourage some of this thought process, think about time. Um, we all struggle with time. I struggle with time. And the idea of opportunity cost that we're going to keep talking about more and more is just as important when you're understanding time as it is with money. So in other words, for every choice that we make, there is a cost. Resources are limited, and that's okay. So as an example, if we choose to go to the pool this evening, hey, it's only 6 o'clock. Maybe you can still do that tonight. If we choose to go to the pool, then we can't play at home. So which would you rather have? Which would you rather choose? Dealing in those ways that, you've got some sort of limited resource and asking children, even at a young age, to begin to make choices is a really healthy place to start. Each time, we're also going to take a moment here to talk about a few products. In this case, we've got life insurance and some post-high school savings that it's never too early to get started with. If you can't afford whole life, because whole life insurance is really fantastic for that long-term investment, but it is more expensive. Term life can always be a more affordable option for you as you're preparing your children for all that life might bring up, and as you're preparing yourself for any of those worst case scenarios. Keep in mind that life insurance is something that is really important. And it is something that we do offer at Community America as a we've got all the various opportunities for you financially. Also, of course, 529 plans. Every state is different when it comes to a 529 plan. So if you're joining us from Kansas or Missouri, those are going to be different 529 plans. I would encourage you to do your own research that way. But they're great ways to save for the future. And an extra helpful tip that I heard recently from a single mom I know, she kind of feels like her kids already have more than what they need in the way of toys and things. And so every time her kids' birthdays come up, she invites her family and friends that want to give them something to actually make a contribution to that 529 plan. I love that sort of idea. Okay, we're going to move on now to the elementary school age. If you haven't already, and you've got children in elementary school, be sure that you're starting somewhere with currency. I know we use cash less and less all the time, but coins, dollars, whatever currency you can. Those are great ways to begin and even introduce children at different ages to math. Of course, there's Pinterest apps. There's Pinterest, and then there's lots of different apps. But do your own trusted research when it comes to ways to schedule around chores and figure out distributing allowance and some of those ideas for small jobs that can build some of that healthy habit of income. I would encourage you, whatever that is, to pay in cash, especially the younger your child is when you get this started. Cash is tangible, right? It's something that children really benefit from when they can actually see it and touch it and smell it. Those things are important, especially at this age. So keep that in mind as you're doing that. And then, when it comes to teaching some about the value of money, as a financial coach, I can tell you every day I'm encouraging people to make sure that they're using money as a tool. And that means I'm going to be teaching them kind of the basic principles of saving, making sure that they're really conscious about their spending, and hopefully that those values even encourage them to share some of their resources with the people and things that matter most to them. This concept of save, spend, share is a great way to start. And I usually encourage people to even do that with just a simple clear ball jar or something. It's easier that way, and if you're using cash, you can see it grow with each of your three jars and the ways that you're choosing to divide up any of that income. In later years, of course, you can always come in. We'd love to get you signed up for a savings account. And then, you can take that to another level of learning and helping your kids learn to trust financial institutions. Of course, overall, it's just a great excuse to come in and meet some of our amazing people. And, every kid of all ages, I don't care how old you are, everybody loves the coin machine. So come in and let us help you with those things. When it comes to product, I already mentioned it a little bit. Your junior savings account is the way to go. Banking with us is just a part of life, and along with the coin machine, another added benefit is we do have fresh chocolate chip cookies every day, and you never know. Most branches are going to have the availability of a sucker, and if you're in a really good mood, maybe kids get both. We don't make those judgments. That's up to you all. But introduce your kids, introduce your child to the friendly people of the credit union. Make sure that they know that this is a welcome and safe place for them to be, and that also you can always emphasize the fact that by putting their money in an account like this, it's insured and therefore it's safe. And so that no matter what else is happening in the world, they can know that their money is going to be there for them when they want it. Okay, next we're going to go on to middle school. My favorite, I'm a former middle school teacher after all. So now we're talking my sweet spot. If not already, this is a time in which making sure that kids have access to as regular of an income as possible. That's different for everybody. I know that's not always possible. But this is an age where it's especially important to be relevant. And in order to be relevant, and in order to really kind of teach some of these skills and take it to the next step, some sense of earning and having that income is going to be really important. Maybe it's not too regular because your kid has a babysitting job, or in my son's case in middle school, he mowed yards over the summer, but then, income would dry up other times a year, at least until it snowed and he could convince somebody to pay him to shovel a driveway. Those are all true things. Just the more consistent it can be, the better. And sometimes that includes still kind of taking your own at-home chores to a new level. But talk about budgets. Keep emphasizing that save, spend, share idea. As any of us evolve and mature, those are great principles for us to build on. Set some SMART goals and maybe even model some of those SMART goals for your kids. If you don't know what SMART stands for, it's an acronym, and it stands for a goal that is specific, it's measurable, it is something that can be achieved, and then it's relevant, and it needs to be time bound. So as an example, maybe, your middle schooler is saving for a video game. It's $30. So then if you can get them to earn or at least save $5 a week for 6 weeks, then that's a SMART goal. I'm going to save $5 a week for 6 weeks until I have $30 so that I can go buy a video game. That sets up your child for a whole lot of success, because trust me, I do those same exercise. I set SMART goals with people I coach every day, of all ages, and I still do it for myself. Keep emphasizing choice and opportunity costs, and let them see and remind them that money is a finite resource. At least it is, I'm going to assume, for everybody on this call. Make sure that you can show them a little bit about tracking and managing spending, and on occasion, even why that checking account matters. And that's especially true because one of the products that I think, in middle school, you got to start wrestling with, when is this going to be the right time, is offering, this student checking account. Now, when you should do that depends on your child's income, their responsibility, and of course, whatever needs you're beginning to perceive. But keep in mind that More and more activities everywhere I go, school and otherwise, are increasingly cashless. So in other words, if you don't have that debit card, sometimes, or even if you're in that place where your child has access to a smartphone. I know I use my Apple Wallet all the time, and my debit card is there, and I can always bump that against whatever I need to when I'm at my kid's school or whatever's going on that doesn't take cash. That can be pretty handy these days, and it's more and more of a necessity. So, kind of balancing that in your lifestyle, your child's lifestyle, can be really important. Um, and of course, then finally, with our online and mobile banking app, um, boy, my kids love the fact that I am still on both of, even my 21-year-old, I am still on his checking account, and he doesn't plan to change that anytime soon. It's awfully convenient when, he stops at the grocery store and he, pays for groceries for the family. For me to be able to just take 2 or 3 steps, it's about 3 steps for me to log into my mobile app, and make sure that I send him some money and do that electronically on the spot. Takes a couple of seconds. That can be really convenient. I mean, as early as middle school, maybe even earlier for some, in some cases, to be able to really be able to transfer that money to help your kids monitor and transfer and do those things responsibly. As if you're going to get a student checking account for your student, one of their guardians is going to be on that account. So there'll always be an adult that's watching and helping out with that. If middle school isn't the right time, it's important to consider when that right time is going to be. And of course, I think, you need to raise your kids as you think best, but I'm going to guess at the very least by high school, it's going to be time to really be considering the whole student checking piece. Um, I'm a big believer that every high schooler is going to benefit from a real job. I'll put that in air quotes. I know I'm old, air quotes. Um, Sacking groceries, bussing tables at your local restaurant, fast food. My son worked at Wendy's and my daughter had a stint at Freddy's. And I can tell you they both learned a ton about real life and about managing money through those experiences. And as the money comes in, be sure you're talking about, things like taxes and gross versus net income, what's happening in any of those situations. Help your child then with a basic budget. I mean, this is all growth, right? Like if you're already in the practice of save, spend, and share, you've already got the basis and the groundwork for a budget. And now you're really, in a place now that there's some regular income to take that a step further. It's still important that you're emphasizing savings first. Boy, the number of adults that I coach every day that wish they would have learned that lesson a long time ago, hand up, me included, my wife and I included, that was something that it took us a lot longer than we wished to learn, that savings is always going to be important. And then at some point during this stage, it's essential then too to let them see, and for you, and if you have a spouse, someone else in your household, however you're managing those finances, to start talking about your money. Start talking about how that works out in your household. If you do have a partner or a spouse, that you're sharing life with and you're sharing your financial responsibilities and resources with, have those conversations with your high schooler. In my opinion, the earlier the better, but at some point before they leave the nest, make sure that they have some idea about the ways that you're doing those things. Have some real family budgeting conversations. Continue to emphasize some of those opportunity costs that, for you and your household, you're having to struggle with. I would also encourage you, this is a great time to dive into those conversations about debt. I tend to teach that there's really two kinds of debt. There's good debt that's going to actually help you in the long run, things like investing, but especially investing in education. And then, of course, there's those bad kind of debt. Those would be the high interest sorts of debts. That would be the sort of debt that you take on because Your spending may not always be in line with what your income is. You may be spending more than what you earn. So having those conversations, especially admitting any of those times that, maybe you weren't perfect or you had to learn some hard ways, those can be really great opportunities to learn some of those important life lessons. And provide, real world conversations. I hope you're a parent. I strive to be a parent for whom my kids know that I'm a safe person. We can talk about anything. And that means sometimes having those really difficult and hard conversations. All right, so a few things we've already mentioned and talked about student checking. We're going to do that. I mean, we're doing it again here just in case that, your child hasn't already done that yet. And then we do offer, because we're a credit union, we're people helping people, we offer for free college and career planning services. Carly Scholl is our college and career planner. I can tell you, she usually tells people no earlier than 8th grade. And she, anytime they're in high school is a sweet spot to begin to have those conversations about what are you thinking about after high school? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? How do you want to make the world a better place? And those are much larger than just, hey, what college are you going to go to? And those will be important conversations that Carly is an expert at. I know she's worked with a number of kids, including my own, on answering those questions. And every time she is really, really excellent at helping children, helping students, helping teenagers develop what they really want. And then helping them figure out, okay, how much is that going to cost? And can you and your family afford that? Reach out to Carly. It's a great, great opportunity that we offer. And I think it's one of those secrets that I wish we didn't keep so much. Okay, we're on now at some point or another to this idea of early adulthood. Most of the time you can think of that in ways of, now that your student has graduated from high school and whatever is next for them, they've got some more availability, opportunity, and of course, responsibility. As happens when you turn 18, there's all sorts of new things to learn and figure out. Amongst those are, of course, credit and debt. Again, we've already talked a little bit about bad debt, but especially helping your child, your youth now, your young adult, figure out how to develop some credit. Credit is so important in so many ways in our world. We can all, get in those places where we wish it weren't such a big deal, or we wish it was easier to figure out. I don't disagree with those things, but it is what it is. And, make sure that you're having relevant, open conversations and you're letting your kids learn from you. But even then, if you need some help, especially with things like credit, we've got experts available. Just walk into your nearest branch. We're prepared to help you with your young adult. We're here to help them establish that credit at a young age. One thing to note here as you're talking about credit building, and especially something like an authorized user on a parent's account for a credit card. Sadly, our own credit cards here at Community America are not reported. If you put an authorized user on our credit cards, those authorized users are not reported. So keep that in mind. All right, so continue to encourage positive choices, budgeting, especially the importance of savings. All of that continues into early adulthood. No matter if your young adult is going off to college, whether they're getting their first job, tackling any sort of community college or vocational opportunities, all of these things, savings is always going to be the first place we want to start, especially before then doing anything to invest. Make sure that there is some sort of emergency savings, or at least what I like to call safety net, a little bit of something that's off to the side that truly is break glass in case of emergency. And finally, keep talking to your young adults about all the real life financial picture that you might have experienced and are experiencing. Those things go a long ways to keeping those lines of communication open. As we talk about things, and we mentioned both of these things in the previous slide, it is worth pointing out we have a couple of really great ways in the way of product to help your young adult establish and get started on that credit journey. One is called our Score More loan. I'm going to point you to our website where you can get the full rundown with that. Score More loans are what we would call a deferred loan. So as loans go, you don't get the money up front. It's more like a savings account that you're making payments on, and we get the opportunity and we can report to the credit bureaus. By doing so, it's a great way to begin establishing some credit. The other one is a starter credit card. Starter cards have a max balance. We cap it at $500 on purpose. So it's a great way to kind of, get your feet wet when it comes to having a credit card. And hopefully at $500, that means that, you're not getting yourself into too big of trouble. It's not like the $1,000 that I got a long time ago in college and had access to all of that money, blew it really quickly, and then spent a long time having to figure out how I was going to pay for it. The starter card should give you your child an opportunity, or your young adult an opportunity to get started that way without too big of consequences. Okay. Again, I want to come back to the theme here, and that is that parenting's hard. I don't know about you, but nobody included an instruction manual when my wife and I started our journey back in 2003. Talking money as adults is hard enough, but talking with kids can be even harder, and we get that. And we're here for you. There's no judgment. There's no space or room for shame or guilt. Only support, only encouragement. And, obviously on occasion, a few products that might help you along the way. And with that, if you're interested in knowing more, I want to make sure you know how to connect with us. We are training all of our branch staff. All of our branch staff now are trained in the basics of financial education and literacy. They can help you with all of these things, and they would love that opportunity to build and continue that relationship with you. I did mention Carly Scholl. She's our college and career planner. You can find her on our website. We're going to also include some links and some email addresses in a follow-up email for those of you that are joining us. That will include my email address. So if there are specific situations that you'd like some advice on, if you would like to schedule something for coaching for you specifically, for you and your partner, your spouse, as a household, if you're doing finances that way, or if you'd like to meet me, for me to meet with your child, with your young adult, I am glad to do all of those things. And if it's not me, I've got colleagues ready to do the same. We are here for you each step of this journey. And all you got to do is just let us know how we can help. All right, so Maria, any big questions that we need to tackle before we wrap up? Okay, wow, I did that good of a job. She says no questions. I don't believe that, so reach out by email. Let me know how I can help. If I can point you in the right direction for more information about products, if there's something I can be supportive of, please let us know. Let me know. I'll connect you with the right people if I don't know the right answer. Once again, it's always a privilege when you choose to spend some of that time with us, and I'm so grateful. Have a great night, and come see us when we can be supportive. Oh, wait. Now we have two. Hold on. I didn't mean to try to get off so fast. Hold on here. What are apps that I suggest for budgeting is one question. Okay. So with apps, if you're used to budgeting otherwise, those can be really great tools. I don't discourage them. But my favorite way when I'm coaching somebody is still to start old school with a spreadsheet. If you want to try some apps, we do have some blog posts available on our website that point you in some of those good directions. And the other option for you is to always do a trusted Google search. As you're doing that, I know that I think on regular occasions throughout the year, NerdWallet is a great way to kind of discover some of those budget apps. It's really hard to point you in one direction because they all bring so many advantages and disadvantages, and it really is a personalized issue. One general consideration with any of the budgeting apps, always start with one that's free. Always start with free, and then if you get into it and you're really using it and you think you might benefit from the extra add-ons that they'll offer you, of course, for a subscription price, then consider that down the road. But always choose one for free to start with, and you might have to choose 2 or 3 to experiment and see what's going to be best for you. So I hope that helps. Do some research, reach out if we can be supportive. Let's see. Question, I have membership but live out of state. Does the phone staff also have this training? We are working on that. Not yet, but if you would like to, I can always schedule, or I've got colleagues, again, any of us that are financial well-being coaches, we can always schedule a virtual chat with you. So if you live out of state, that's not a problem. We can still meet and we can still chat and help you get on that path to thrive. Okay, next, how do you recommend teaching your young adults to revise their standard of living expectations when they're on their own financially, not living off mom and dad? For example, parents might be able to buy you that brand new hoodie you want, but when you've got a minimum wage job, you might have to get the hoodie from Walmart. Yeah. I think that's one of those places that, for me at least, I usually encourage people to encourage some of that. I'm going to call it failure at the risk of it coming across the wrong way, but fail up, right? Like, figure that out early on, that there are those choices that are going to have to be made. And with that, I mean, I think the hard part sometimes as a parent is letting them do that. Making sure that they understand, okay, this is your money, you got to figure that out. I'm going to support you and encourage you not to go into debt over it, to live within your means. By the way, that's an important part of a budget that we always teach and coach, is that a budget shouldn't really limit you. It's more about the fact that a budget is your plan for your money. Make sure that you have all of that listed out, and make sure you know the money that you can dedicate to any of those things that you might want or need. Okay, that's all the questions I've got. Reach out by email. I'm going to go ahead and close this out tonight. Don't hesitate to let me know how I can be supportive. Maria will get you all, we'll get you an email blast tomorrow that will have this presentation so that you can go back and review any of it that you want. You can share this. I'll be live again in August. And of course, it will also have some contact information so you know how best to get in touch with us. Once again, we're here for you whenever we can be supportive and help you on this financial path to thrive. Thanks for joining us tonight, and have a great night.